October the 31st marked 12 years since the Bitcoin white paper was published by Satoshi Nakamoto, and a lot has changed since then. Thousands of promising crypto projects have materialized from some of the world's most brilliant minds. The cryptocurrency market cap is growing by the day, and Bitcoin is nearing its all-time highs. However, this explosion in innovation and investment has inspired the very institutions that cryptocurrencies are designed to revolutionize and replace. Governments and corporations around the world have begun dabbling in blockchain technologies, and not the kind that have the privacy, security, transparency, decentralization, and freedom which define cryptocurrency. Central banks are rushing to develop their own digital currencies, and many private companies are capitalizing on cryptocurrency by financing their own projects, including the creation of stablecoins, which are slowly starting to dominate the crypto market. Unsurprisingly, these entities are not working in isolation. Today, I'll be examining a few interesting connections between USDC, Stellar, the IMF, and what they might mean for the future of cryptocurrency. Before we break out the tinfoil hats, I need to transmit a very important message. I am not a financial advisor, and nothing I say in this video should be considered financial or investment advice. It is important to do your own research, especially when it comes to cryptocurrency. There is a lot of information out there, and it's changing by the day. My name is Guy, and here at the Bureau I do my best to keep you up to date with the latest and greatest cryptocurrency coins, news, projects, DeFi protocols, and much more. If this is the stuff that gets you hot and bothered, allow me to direct you to the subscribe button down below. While you're at it, you may as well ping that notification bell. This will give you a nudge the next time I'm around. As always, timestamps are located at the bottom of this video if you're a picky so-and-so. We've got a lot to cover, so I hope you've brought enough foil. Let's see where these rabbit holes lead. Now, I don't normally start by shilling another one of my videos, but today's investigation is an unofficial part 2 to my recent video about the effects of stablecoin printing on the crypto market, which you can watch here. You see, while doing research for my video on stablecoin printing, I stumbled across a few peculiar connections between various private and public entities that are involved with stablecoins and similar technologies, namely central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Although many of these connections are obvious and well documented, others are a bit more speculative. I will give you a speculation warning before I start drawing connections that would make Alex Jones blush. Anyways, assuming you've watched my stablecoin printing video, you'll recall that I finished it off with the suggestion that the secret endgame of US dollar-backed stablecoins is to undermine other national currencies. This is because anyone can create a makeshift US dollar bank account within seconds using a mobile cryptocurrency wallet which accepts stablecoins like USDT or USDC. This means that if another national currency such as the euro starts to quickly lose value relative to the US dollar due to something like, say, excessive printing by the European Central Bank to offset the economic effects of a global pandemic, citizens in the Eurozone could use their debit or credit cards to quickly and easily buy USDT or USDC to protect their wealth. What's more is that they could actually spend these stablecoins in their native country, using either a physical cryptocurrency debit card or a mobile crypto payments app with a digital NFC card. If this happened at a large scale, it could completely tank the euro. As it turns out, this is actually a very legitimate concern held by governments around the world, and is something that has kept them up at night for decades. It's called dollarization, and involves a full or partial substitution of a national currency by the US dollar. Dollarization was discussed during a series of seminars held by the International Monetary Fund on October the 19th about cross-border payments. In case you didn't already know, the IMF is an international organization based out of Washington, D.C., which tries to help align the monetary policies of over 190 countries to ensure global financial stability and prosperity. In other words, They really like to play with money printers. The seminars the IMF held on October the 19th focused on a roadmap for the, quote, new beginning of currency. Here's the rundown. Governments and banks around the world are now very aware that their monopoly on money is under threat. Oddly enough, it was not cryptocurrencies that raised the alarm. It was Facebook's Libra. This is because Facebook has a massive user base. Almost half of the world's population is using Facebook or a Facebook-owned platform such as WhatsApp or Instagram. This means that Libra could achieve mainstream adoption overnight. The same cannot be said for cryptocurrencies, which is why they are not seen as a major threat by governments, at least for the time being. While Libra is tied up in the courts, the IMF is basically scrambling to help governments around the world put together their own solutions to the problems they caused in the first place. This essentially involves creating a vast network of interoperable CBDC blockchains. Each CBDC will be created and controlled by its respective central bank, and each will use one or more blockchains to be sent from one user to another. As you might have guessed, every person interacting with this global CBDC network will need to have some sort of digital identity, which will be immutable on a blockchain and accessible by virtually every government and central bank on the planet. Oh, and the IMF wants countries around the world to start rolling all of this out over the next 5 years. And I thought Halloween was over. Here is where things get interesting. Apparently, the blockchains that these CBDCs will be built on will be both private and public. In case you didn't make the connection, public blockchains includes cryptocurrency blockchains. Danelle Dixon, the CEO of Stellar, and René Reinsberg, the CEO of Cello, were both panelists for one of the IMF seminars. If you keep up with the cryptocurrency news, you probably knew this already. The fact that 2 cryptocurrency projects were represented at a significant event by an international organization concerned with managing money may provoke some FOMO, but this alone is not enough to say for sure that these or any other cryptocurrency projects will be selected to help build an admittedly dystopian future. To make that claim, we're going to need some more evidence. As it so happens, more evidence is exactly what I have. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Jerome Powell is the chair of the Federal Reserve, aka the largest money printer on the planet, and the institution responsible for setting some of the most important monetary policies of the United States. If there is one piece of crypto news which boggles my mind, it's that the Federal Reserve has, quote, no plans for a central bank digital currency. This has been the Fed's answer every time they've been asked, and it's the answer that was given again by Jerome Powell during one of the IMF seminars on cross-border payments on October the 19th. During that same seminar, the IMF moderator said that over 80% of the world's central banks have plans to build a CBDC. The US dollar is not only the national currency of the largest economy in the world, but also the world's reserve currency. To put it simply, the US dollar is also the stablecoin of fiat currencies. Speculation warning. In my mind, there are only 2 reasons that the Federal Reserve would say that they have no plans to create a dollar CBDC. Either they know that the traceability of CBDCs would immediately reveal incredible levels of corruption, or some variation of a dollar CBDC already exists. While the first reason is certainly plausible, there is no way for me to prove it, and it's also way outside the scope of this video. What I think I can prove, however, is that something akin to a CBDC already exists, and I think it's USDC. Allow me to explain. Although Tether may be the largest stablecoin by market cap, USDC is the fastest growing stablecoin in cryptocurrency. This is for many reasons. For starters, Circle, the company which issues USDC, actually has the US dollars required to back the USDC in circulation. The same cannot be said for Tether, which instead has the equivalent US dollar amount of the USDT in circulation, not in actual US dollars, but a basket of assets including loans they issued to affiliate companies. Also, in 2019, Circle joined forces with Coinbase, the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the United States, and founded the Center Consortium, which focuses on the promotion and adoption of USDC. By the end of 2019, Circle had basically sold off all its services to focus on developing USDC. This included selling the Poloniex cryptocurrency exchange, which they'd purchased in 2018, and even selling their lucrative OTC trading service to Kraken. A Medium post by Circle, which details this sharpened focus, ends with the following statement: "The global interest in stablecoins and digital currency backed by central bank money, the introduction of third-generation public blockchains, and the accelerated global policy interest in crypto all provide an exciting backdrop for our new platform services in 2020. In August this year, the Center Consortium introduced USDC 2.0. USDC 2.0 makes it possible to send USDC on Ethereum without paying gas in ETH. Instead, that gas is automatically paid in USDC. USDC 2.0 also introduced a, quote, new set of on-chain multiple signature contracts, including new consensus mechanisms. Not even 1 month later, the OCC, that's Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, gave the green light to federal banks to provide banking services to stablecoin issuers. Note that this is a significantly different announcement than the one the OCC made in July, which authorized federal banks to custody cryptocurrency assets. Clearly, the US government is looking to promote the creation of stablecoins, and I don't think it's because they want people to yield farm in DeFi protocols. I think this is to drive competition between stablecoin issuers so they can determine which one is the best to launch a CBDC with. Survival of the fittest at its finest, and USDC seems to be the undisputed alpha male, at least for the time being. USDC is really not all that different from what a US dollar CBDC would be like. It's issued by a centralized authority. It can be controlled by that centralized authority, and it operates as digital cash, meaning that each token has its own unique identifier and transaction history. Both Coinbase and Circle have also proven to US authorities that they're willing and able to play ball. Coinbase has a history of freezing their users' assets. They note on their website that they do this when required by law, but also do so in accordance with less binding guidelines from various US regulatory bodies, such as the Office of Foreign Assets Control. Circle has also frozen wallet addresses holding USDC in the past, and Center's blacklisting policy confirms that USDC follows essentially the same policy as Coinbase. This is not surprising, given that the Center Consortium is made up of both Circle and Coinbase. Speculation warning. All of this suggests to me that USDC will eventually become the CBDC of the United States. Now, all that's left to figure out is which blockchain it will exist on. Governments and central banks around the world have been looking for the best blockchains for their future CBDCs. As I mentioned earlier, they're considering both private and public blockchains, including cryptocurrency blockchains. Many heavyweights in the private sector, like Microsoft, MasterCard, JP Morgan, and even PayPal, have thrown their blockchain hats in the ring for CBDC consideration. At first glance, it seems unlikely that any government or central bank would choose a cryptocurrency blockchain over a private blockchain from one of these giants. However, there is one thing that cryptocurrency blockchains have that these private blockchains do not: actual competition. If you wanted to figure out what's going on under the hood with some high-performance blockchain made by a tech giant like Google, you wouldn't have much luck. Almost none of their blockchains are open source, and for good reason. A competitor, like, say, Amazon, could copy the design and create something even more efficient, stamp a patent on it, and hide it under a mountain of non-disclosure agreements. In contrast, almost every cryptocurrency blockchain is open source. This means that the only way you can stay ahead of the competition is to continue innovating at an inhuman pace. The pressure to create an even faster, even more decentralized, even more secure blockchain in the crypto space is very high. Everyone is watching, including the competition. In addition, many of these people building these blockchains don't just do it to make a quick buck. Many crypto developers are genuinely trying to create a blockchain that can sustain the future of finance envisioned by Satoshi Nakamoto. Some, like privacy coin developers, work on their projects almost exclusively because of the values they personally hold. It's probably impossible to pay them off. At companies like Google and Facebook, developers are given a nice salary, free food, a comfortable pod to sleep in, discounted housing, free transportation to and from work, and even have various sports facilities on their campuses. Meanwhile, André Cronje, who is apparently broke, sits in a poorly air-conditioned building somewhere in South Africa building DeFi protocols until he passes out from exhaustion. Why? Because it's an internal motivation which drives him, not external ones like those lanky vegan devs in Silicon Valley. Another speculation warning. All of this suggests to me that the United States will choose a cryptocurrency blockchain to create a blockchain for their CBDC. But which one will it be? All signs point to Stellar. Over the past year, the Center Consortium has been on the hunt for the best blockchain for their USDC stablecoin. In June, they announced that they would be launching USDC on Algorand, and in October, they announced Stellar and Solana as two additional blockchains that will soon support USDC. As I mentioned earlier, Stellar was also one of the cryptocurrency projects represented at the IMF's recent discussion series about cross-border payments. During this discussion, Stellar CEO Danelle Dixon noted that Stellar wants to merge with the existing monetary system, not replace it, and that USDC is, quote, the glue to bring in CBDCs. To be fair, this could have just been a shout-out, given that Stellar and the Center Consortium had partnered that same month. However, another encounter between Stellar and the Federal Reserve leads me to believe there is more than meets the eye. In March of 2019, Stellar co-founder Jed McCaleb shared a stage with Michael Warner, senior strategist at the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. By shared a stage, I mean they literally sat next to each other. That discussion basically reinforces everything I've said in this video so far, namely that the Federal Reserve wants a private company to develop the blockchain that will support their CBDC, and that Stellar is wanting to work with the Federal Reserve to provide that blockchain. The panelists even detailed the exact competition dynamics I noted in the previous section, stating that it will basically be a fight to the death between blockchains for the CBDC crown. Michael Warner simply nodded in agreement. What's more is that around halfway through the discussion, Michael Warner turns to Jed McCaleb and asks him how he would build a CBDC on Stellar. I'll leave a link to that discussion in the description, and I recommend watching it if you have the time. Stellar is on the Fed's radar, that much is obvious. Speculation warning? I think that the CBDC of the United States will be based on USDC and built on what will likely be a private and permissioned blockchain made by Stellar. That said, USDC has not yet launched on Stellar. That's set to take place in January 2021. Assuming that's successful in convincing governments and central banks that their combined tech is sufficiently robust for national and international use, my speculation warnings so far may just come true. There's just one last thing to cover before closing this case, and that's when we should expect to see a CBDC in the United States. Another speculation warning. I think that the United States is not in a rush to create a CBDC, and here's why. In a previous video I did on CBDCs, I noted that some smaller countries are actually issuing their own CBDCs as a way to protect themselves against dollarization. Even Chinese officials recently stated that the digital yuan is their way of protecting against dollarization. This means that for basically every other country besides the United States, CBDCs are not an end in themselves, but a means to an end, and that end is protection against dollarization. For the United States, the CBDC is more of an offensive weapon. Depending on how it's designed, it could easily cause the dollarization almost every other country is trying to protect against. So why not make it now while other countries are still building? Assuming the United States is actually waging a monetary war against other countries, creating a CBDC would be the equivalent of the nuclear bomb during the Second World War, right? Well, consider this. US dollar stablecoins like USDT and USDC are growing, and not just because people want to hedge when trading crypto or capitalize on some mind-melting DeFi yields. They're increasingly being used to transfer wealth between borders, especially in East Asia, and specifically in China. According to Chainalysis, stablecoins are second only to Bitcoin as the cryptocurrency used for cross-border payments. This is true across every continent. The dollar value of cryptocurrency being sent across borders each year is only in the hundreds of billions, a far cry from the roughly 200 trillion that's transferred across borders every year using fiat currencies. Unfortunately, the report by Chainalysis does not mention whether stablecoins are slowly becoming the preferred crypto method of cross-border payments. If they are, their use could potentially begin to rival fiat payments in the next few years. If that were to happen, it would lead to dollarization. Speculation warning. I think that's the master plan. Governments and central banks around the world are taking their time with their CBDCs, with few exceptions, and it's probably because they think the US government and the Federal Reserve are also sitting on their hands. Meanwhile, the United States is not so secretly laying out the red carpet for private companies within its jurisdiction to set sail and conquer other currencies using US dollar stablecoins. Adoption of US dollar stablecoins is increasing by the day, and so too is the efficiency of these stablecoins and the blockchains they're built on. Government officials already have oversight and some degree of control over the companies that are issuing these stablecoins, so why rush? Either US dollar stablecoins start to undermine other national currencies, in which case a dollar CBDC is not immediately necessary, or other countries finally set up their own CBDCs. At this point, all the US government would have to do is either buy, copy, or claim USDC and the blockchain it's built on as their own CBDC. When that day comes, the stablecoin issuer and blockchain the US government chooses for their CBDC will probably be years ahead in efficiency compared to other CBDCs. All thanks to the vicious free market competition it fostered and facilitated. This would consequently make the digital US dollar the preferred currency to use around the world, again resulting in dollarization. Checkmate? Alright team, I'm going to have to close the file here. There was a lot I didn't cover, like USDC potentially trying to corrupt MakerDAO, but that's a topic for another time. A lot of what I said in this video is speculation, but I think a few things are quite clear. Countries around the world are working hard to introduce their own central bank digital currencies. They're looking for stablecoin issuers to help them develop the tech and for multiple private and public blockchains to sustain the global interoperable blockchain network they envision. I think that the United States will choose the Center Consortium stablecoin technology and Stellar's blockchain technology to create their CBDC. Multiple links between these various parties are evidence of this, but it does not mean the current frontrunners could change in the future. For all I know, this could change by the time you watch this video. However, the United States does not seem to be rushing with their CBDC. I think this is because the dollarization they would hope to achieve with it is already beginning to happen with US dollar stablecoins. US authorities have created the perfect environment for stablecoin issuers and blockchain companies to compete for superiority. This would basically ensure that the usage of US dollar stablecoins will continue to increase while other governments struggle to get their CBDCs off the ground. Consequently, when the day comes, the United States will have the best CBDC technology within arm's reach. When will the CBDC come? Well, if the IMF estimate is anything to go by, 5 to 10 years is a reasonable time frame, and the United States will probably be one of the last countries to adopt it. If you enjoyed this video, give that like button a slap. Take a second to subscribe if you haven't already, and ping that notification bell to get notified the next time I fall down a rabbit hole. If you're like me and can't get enough of crypto, then why not subscribe to my weekly newsletter? Speculation warning, I think you'll love it. Just click that first link in the description, fill in your email, and remember to click on that confirmation link. That's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.